Hello Prep3, it's our first online lessons today. We will start with Module 2, Lesson 3, Grammar. Let's start. Today we are talking about models. Models, they have very different kinds. It's only depend on how can we use models. Let's start with the first kind of models. We use must or have to express duty or strong obligation to do something. But be careful, we have to focus that the speaker himself who has decided that something is necessary. The speaker himself who has decided that something is necessary. For example, we must turn off the tap when we don't need any more water. We must turn off the tap when we don't need any more water. As you see, we're using here must to express duty or strong obligation to do something. Okay? And we now make the difference, know the difference between must and have to. Have to. We use have to express a strong necessity or obligation, but be careful the difference between have to and using must. Have to, somebody other than the speaker has decided that something is necessary. Somebody, not the speaker himself. Somebody other than the speaker. Okay? We told before that must, the speaker himself who decided that something is necessary, but here we're using have to express a strong necessity that somebody other than the speaker who has decided that something is necessary. Let's see example for it. We have to use public transport if we want to reduce pollution. We have to use public transport if we want to reduce pollution. Okay? Next one. How can I use models to express advices or suggestion? Here we use should or ought to. Should or ought to used to express strong suggestions. As we said, it's your duty less than must. For example, we should or ought to respect the environment and not drop litter. We should or ought to respect the environment and not drop litter. Okay? How can we use models to express absence of necessity? If we wanted to use models to express absence of necessity, we use don't have to or don't need to or needn't. Don't have to or don't need to or needn't. It is necessary, it's not necessary to do something in the present future. Focus please. We use don't have or don't need to or needn't in the present necessary. In the present necessary of the future. For example, we don't have to pay for a ticket to enter the zoo because admission is free. We don't have or needn't pay for a ticket to enter the zoo because admission is free. As we see, we're using here absence of necessity in the future or present. We're using don't have to or don't need to or needn't. The next one, how can I express about absence of necessity but in the past? Before we talked about absence of necessity in the present. Now we will use absence of necessity in the past. We use didn't have to or didn't need to. As you see, didn't need to or didn't have to or it wasn't necessary to, it used to express that doing something in the past, doing something in the past. Again, we have to know that models used in the past to express absence of necessity. For example, we didn't need to participate in the nature war if we didn't want to. Or we can say we didn't have to participate in the nature walk if we didn't want to. As you see, we talked about models to express absence of necessity, but in the past, not in the present or future. As we said before, if we're using absence of necessity for the future or the present, we're using don't have to or don't need to or needn't. But if we wanted to use absence of necessity in the past, we use didn't have to or didn't need to. Please focus. Okay, next one. What models we can use to express perception? We use mustn't. Mustn't, it is forbidden to do something. As we said, it's against the rules or the law. You are not allowed to do something. If you are not allowed to do this because it's against the rules or the law, we use mustn't. For example, we mustn't hunt endangered species. We mustn't hunt endangered species. As we know, any of the modal verb is followed by infinitive. We mustn't hunt infinitive endangered species. Okay. But we use mustn't to express perception. What I mean with perception, that it's against the rules or the law, that you are not allowed to do something. We use mustn't. Next. Which of the models we can use to express advice or to give advices? We use should or ought to. Should or ought to. Should, using as a general advice. As we said, it's my advice, or I can say I advise you to do something. It's my advice for you to study hard, or I can say I advise you to study hard. So it's the same. We're using should for general advice. Let's see in the example. We should try to recycle as much as our household waste as possible. We should try to recycle as much as of our household waste as possible. Okay, as we said, we're using for express advices should or ought to. Next, ought to, we use it to giving general advices too, and we can use it's a good idea or a good thing to do. For example, we ought to use solar power as it's a renewable energy source. Here we use ought to for giving advices too. We ought to use solar power as it's a renewable energy source. As we said, we're using models for many different expressions like giving advices. We use should or ought to. I hope you understand well what we explained here about models. Okay, let's start to see some exercises to know